All right, before we get to the 14th annual Mock Sessler Marc Draft, we just want to remind you that coming up Thursday, April 24th, the first round of the NFL Draft, we will be live, heed the call, on YouTube, a live stream of the first 10 picks, me, Mark, Justin, a bunch of guests, and it's going to be incredible. Sessdog live stream draft, heed the call, on fire.
It's just like another example of we're just going to do what we want to do with each one of these tentpole events. There's some special surprise guests. It's going to move. It's going to be exciting, Dan.
And don't forget, not only are we going to be breaking down the picks, Justin will be attempting to dunk at the end of the live stream. So make sure you're there at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific. It is the NFL Draft live with Heed the Call. All right, let's get to the mock draft.
Hello, friends, and welcome to the 14th annual Mock Sessler Marc Draft. I'm not Jim Nance, and now here are your hosts, Dan Hanzus and Conor Orr. Love you guys.
Unbelievable. Love you too, Jim Nance. Yes, Dan Hanzus here with Conor Orr, and it's really one of the most wonderful times of the year. The 12th annual Mock Sessler Marc Draft. And Conor, you could feel it. The tension from coast to coast right now, really so much on the line, it feels like.
There's no question. About 4 years ago at Sports Illustrated, I did a story on what was then considered the greatest mock draft in the history of mock drafts. Paul Zimmerman, Dr. Z, got 11 of the first 13 picks right, including a trade. And it was so accurate that it was mentioned at the eulogy of his funeral. And I think about that on a day like today, and I think that my friend Mark could do something of that magnitude. I know the way he works, I know the way he thinks, and I believe in him in a real way.
You know, that's really well said, and I don't know if you're saying that because Mark is probably statistically the closest to his eulogy, that it would be something that would line up. But at the same time, Mark's also put in a lot of work. I know that. I know that for a fact. In fact, there was a text chain that landed over the weekend that Mark made an allusion to. I'll be working right through Easter Sunday, late into the night, because he knows what's at stake here, and really not just for him, but for us and our show. And we've done this before, and this is the first time on Heed the Call, and it makes it even more important that Mark knocks this one out of the park, because I think if there's a theme here, Conor, if there was a 3-word phrase that really put a button on what's going on right now, aching for legitimacy. And that is where we need Marc Sessler. And without further ado, why don't we welcome in the man of the hour, the man that will go pick for pick through the round, Marc Sessler. Hi, Mark.
What a pleasure to be here. And I see what's happening a little bit, and I appreciate the genuine reverence around the entire project. But when we mention, Dr. Z nailing 11 out of 13, it's a little bit of a reverse table setting. But what I like, though, is that Conor is sort of saying, total confidence. We're going to enact this project in a very proper way, as no one would doubt.
And failure to do so would only just affect us and our children and stuff like that. So
yeah. No big deal. No big deal. And, there's the other part of this as we look to further establish Heed the Call as a major brand in the professional football coverage world. An article that came out just this week in The Athletic by Joseph Person and Mike Jones, headline, "Do Teams Pay Attention to NFL Media Mock Drafts? Maybe more than you'd expect." And this data point from that article, in polling front office members across the league, The Athletic found that 15 of 18 teams utilized mock drafts in varying degrees in their pre-draft process. One NFC general manager believes every team uses them to some extent and speculated that teams that say they don't are probably lying. Furthermore, several GMs, including Seattle's John Schneider and the Rams' Les Snead and Carolina's Dan Morgan, said their analytics departments monitor media mock drafts and putting them into in-depth databases that help the monitoring of trends. These officials then produce a report from those findings and relay them to the front office as another source of information. So, Conor, what we're trying to do here, hopefully, is Mark's mock mocks Mark becomes one of these, essential pieces of data for the teams. We become part of the process.
Yeah. A great mock draft, someone once told me, is like a mosaic of stained glass, like in an old Catholic church, right? Because it's all these little tiny pieces and nuggets of information that come together to form this incredible tapestry, but it's so fragile at the same time. And again, I think Mark is certainly up to the challenge.
And one of the people mentioned early on in that article is Jason Light, the Bucks GM, who Conor's gotten on his radar for very different reasons. I've gotten on his radar. So you would imagine that the eyeballs will be hovering over a day like today.
Unbelievable. Eyeballs will be hovering. 2 eyeballs in particular, and a man that, had some critical things to say a year ago in this very same exercise. And perhaps it's time to welcome him, because if we are going to be succeeding in our goal, our ache for legitimacy, we must gain legitimacy in the eyes of the people that we respect the most in this draft prognostication world. And there are very few people that are in the class of this man. Let us welcome now NFL draft analyst Lance Zierlein. Hey, Lance.
Hi, friends.
Hi, Lance. You're back this year, and Mark, obviously, we all in a way want to make sure this mock draft is something that does well and looks well for He the Call, and we just hope that you can give us the honesty that you're known for here.
I'm going to be honest. I mean, he's stepping on my turf, so legitimacy is important for all of us, and it's like if they let me go, play 5 minutes in an NBA playoff game, is it really a legitimate sport? That you have to ask that question.
Well,
I think it's kind of the similar here in this vein, that if they just let anybody mock, so it's got to be legitimate. It's got to make some sense to me.
You made it, I would say, crystal clear how you felt about my process a year ago. So I've taken that. I think about that, and I tried to continue to improve and grow. And it's with incredible respect for you, Lance.
Yeah, it was meant with love. Like, it wasn't. I know it's kind of disconnected abruptly, but I didn't want to say something I regretted that either one of us would regret. So I thought it was smart.
Yeah, last year I believe I likened it to someone going up to the 6th floor of a book depository and getting some shots off with deadly accuracy. So we'll see if it happens again. Mark, without further ado, it is time now for your mock draft, and let's start at the top of the draft. I don't think there should be any surprise here.
No, when you're kind of, part of this is you're trying to collect victories out of the gate, and outside of the gunshots being fired in my direction, the Tennessee Titans, this will surprise no one, are going to take quarterback Cam Ward out of Miami. And if that for some reason that didn't happen, I think we have a nuclear meltdown right at the top of the draft. This is happening.
Yeah, this is as certain as it gets, Lance. You don't need to be a mockologist to nail this one, right?
I'm fine with this.
All right, let's move to pick 2, and this is one that I know Mark is near and dear to you as a Cleveland Browns supporter. Is this going chalk as well?
I am going with what I've heard overwhelmingly. We all have. I think a month ago, this was like the huge turning point. But the Cleveland Browns, they take Travis Hunter, wide receiver and cornerback, out of Colorado. And I think it's the most exciting, marketable player in the draft from a certain point of view. And the Browns could use that.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I mean, Travis Hunter's probably the favorite right now, but I'd personally go Abdul Carter. But I think Travis, so far, I'm fine with it. It's going to be hard to screw up 1 through 3.
All right. With that said, let's get to pick 3.
Well, maybe we do differ here, but I'm going Abdul Carter out of Penn State, the edge for the New York Giants, because this whole business about maybe you trade Kayvon Thibodeau at some point. I think that Abdul Carter comes in and fills a need for the Giants right away. If they're not going quarterback, I don't think they are.
No, I don't think they are either. And if you're not, you have to go Abdul Carter. And I wouldn't go any of these quarterbacks over Abdul Carter, not after Ward's off the board. So, yeah, this is It's the only pick here.
All right. So far, Mark, and this is the easy part. You're in good position. It seems.
I think this is where we say goodbye to Lance. Just say this went very well, and we'll see you next year.
Unfortunately, we can't do that. We need to.
Let's see. I've noticed there's been a lot of groupthink going on so far at the mock. So I'm guessing that your 1 through 7, 1 through 8 is going to be pretty, pretty according to Hoyle.
Oh, okay. That
Been
seems like
labeled
a
as
minor
group
dig.
thinker.
Yeah. Go ahead, Mark. Pick 4.
Well, here's one where I filed my mock, and then I'm hearing new information that has disturbed me to some degree. But Patriots, you could go Genti here, but I think they're going to go offensive tackle. People are talking about Will Campbell, but I'm going Kelvin Banks out of Texas. This may be where we form a line of departure, Lance.
No, I'm actually okay with it. I don't think there's any given. I do think it's left tackle. They have to have a left tackle. And I think it's between Will Campbell and Kelvin Banks. I mean, you're wrong on it. It will be Will Campbell, but I don't mind you stepping out and saying, hey, what about Kelvin Banks? I think that's a legitimate question that you're asking. It won't be him, but I don't hate the thought here.
But how about that with when it comes to the mock world? I mean, he's trying to just mix it up a little bit. Do you respect that, or do you think he's cutting off his nose despite his face?
I'm just going to follow what everyone tells me, and that just means he's doing it for clicks.
Mark.
Not even a published article. It's okay. No, pick number 5. I like this guy out of Michigan, Mason Graham, defensive lineman. That's where I'm going here. I think that the Harbaugh products in Michigan, there's a couple of them in this draft, seem to be a good bet. And I think if you're the Jaguars, you got different needs, but for me, it's defense.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. It makes the most sense here. He's going here in most of the mocks. The new one is Genti to 5. That's kind of the new hot ticket is Genti there, but I think Mason Graham makes a lot of sense here.
Don't you think though that that's an example of, we get to that point every year where I remember a few years ago, right? It was like, oh, Ed Oliver can go number 2 now. And like we get to this point where we become so obsessed with something that we drive it up the board. Do you think that the Genti thing is legitimate, or do you think that this is one of those things where we've talked ourselves dry and we're starting to just lose the bit a little bit?
Well, it could be, but for me, it's more like it's never felt quite right that I had Genti going 10 to the Bears at one point. I had my first mock had him 7 to the Jets, and let me tell you, they were excited. Jets fans were excited about getting a running back. Let me tell you.
I remember that.
Yeah, we were real happy with that. Then I went.
Jets fans are never happy, though, in fairness.
No, they're not. And then I went to Ashton Genti. I don't know, maybe Bears at 10. But the more I think about it, he's the best player in the draft, at least top 3, maybe in the entire draft. And so you just start thinking, aren't other teams going to recognize that they can draft players who aren't as good as Genti, or they can get the guy that they're going to have really high on their board? Because they're going to have Ashton Genti really high on their board. It's just a matter of philosophically, are you willing to maybe alter what you have previously thought about drafting running backs, in the top 5, top 10. But I think it's really more a matter of people are starting to maybe think, hey, what about just the best player on the board here? What about BPA for a team that stinks? I mean, when is Jacksonville not drafting in the top 5 picks? They're always drafting in the top 5. Just get a good player.
Well, I got an answer for you. How about the Raiders take Ashton Genti next? They were arguably the worst backfield in the league a year ago. You got Chip Kelly in there and Pete Carroll. You were led by Alexander Madison and Amir Abdullah a season ago. I think neither one of them crossed 350 yards on the year. You change everything. I think the Raiders, I've killed them year after year, but you've improved the coaching situation. You've got a spicy situation at OC. There's a little bit of work to do under center, but Genti can make that offense 10 times more interesting than they were a year ago. And to me, it's an easy pick. Best player available.
Yeah, easy pick here. I mean, it's what everyone's doing, so why not you too?
Jeez, Mark. I mean, one thing I want to say, just Mark, in fairness, that we want to be able to somehow hit this in a way that separates us from the pack. And if this is just going to be chalky all the way through, I mean, we're
Here,
not
can
going
I
to
make
impress.
this picks for him?
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah.
Next up, we're going to go Armand Membo from the Missouri Tigers.
Well, he's right.
What a surprise.
He's right.
What a surprise.
Look, in years past, I went like LSD Trip Avenue on this, and then it's like you're getting destroyed verbally and non-verbally by people for getting two picks right. So
let's see if Lance can guess
Good.
the Panthers pick that Mark's giving too.
Okay. Well, that makes it easy for me.
I mean, I'd hate to think that he went with Jalen Walker here, with the Panthers taking Jalen Walker.
Oh no,
I did, but you've seen the list or something.
No.
And the
I
next
haven't
one
seen
is
the list.
perhaps the most obvious.
All right, let's see if we can make it the hat
list.
trick. Saints at 9. I can assure you, by the way, that Lance has not seen the list. Lance has been up since 5 a.m. doing his
have not
radio
seen the
show
list.
and then 400 shows on NFL Network.
In cahoots, though. In cahoots.
I got to figure out where you're going to put Will Campbell. So the Saints have usually had defensive ends plugged in there. They've had Michael Williams, Shamar Stewart plugged in there. I'm going to go Michael Williams.
Okay, well, incorrect.
Yes.
Although perhaps you will be in reality, but this is where I'm putting Shedeur Sanders, and
okay.
you've got a new head coach. Derek Carr is annoyed; they're annoyed with him, and you've got some weapons on offense. Like I think it's kind of for me, like wherever Sanders goes, it can't be like an eternal trash bag. Like I'd say Cleveland would be a problematic place, but the Saints. And that whole the whole Saints culture, I kind of like the Sanders family having to dip into that, and they could use a quarterback. We'll find out if he's overdrafted in general.
Yeah, I should have thought about it longer because I would have come up with that for you.
I'm just going to keep hitting
They
singles here.
really need a defensive end, and that's why I was thinking what a draft guy would think, but that's fine. That's fine. We're fine.
Oh, no.
No, that's good. Mark and I need to have some differences here. That's all.
All right, let's close out the top 10, Sassy.
Okay, the Chicago Bears, if Genti does not land here, and I think
Obviously,
they would want to.
Will Campbell.
It is Will Campbell, and they need an offensive tackle. Well, some of this is just like it kind of this to me is a pretty kind of meat and potatoes type draft, and some of these teams just seem like they need these guys at these positions. So
it's funny. I can predict this because most of the people are coming in with the same stuff because it's just kind of obvious. That's why I didn't have to see the list. It's just most of the lists are coming in there, and it's hard to deviate. I don't think Sanders goes 9, but it's hard to deviate because there's so few really good players. There's so few players who deserve a spot in the 1 through 6, pick range that I think that it's we've all kind of run into the same players in the same spots, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be wrong. I've seen drafts where 9 of the first 10 picks were kind of what you thought they were going to be. So Will Campbell wasn't hard. I mean, the Bears need a left tackle. You had Will Campbell left over. We got 3 tackles. You're going to put them at 4, 7, and 10. It's just a matter of how you split them up. It's not, now it may not work that way though. You may have somebody surprise you. I will tell you that the Jets could surprise you and go Will Campbell and move him to the right side. So that's something you have to look for. I think Tyler Warren's in play over there. Jahdae Barron, there's some. Remember that Brian Branch was a cornerback for Aaron Glenn over with the Detroit Lions, and Jahdae Barron does some of the same stuff that Brian Branch did in college. Plays multiple positions, very versatile. So I could see Aaron Glenn falling in love with a player like that. So it's interesting, but it's not that unusual that all the same players. I mean, the only one that you've kicked out of the 10, like Shedeur in there, there's one player missing. I don't know, maybe Tyler Warren is missing. I feel like there's one player missing that's usually in there, but I think it's probably the wild card is the Saints. Because I don't know what the Saints are going to do. So that's actually the wild card pick. The rest of them are exactly what pretty much all of us have, including me.
And you had Lance in your latest mock draft, which you could check out on NFL.com. Jihad Campbell, linebacker out of Alabama, as an example. So there's
I didn't
option.
love that, but I just thought he fits what Staley likes to do defensively with the Saints, and he won't be on my next one that's due on Thursday.
Well, it's a good thing that we got this out of the way so you can take a look at what's been done here and perhaps react off of it.
So you don't.
I take it all information sources. I do, Seth.
You do have a first round in your most recent one as of right now, as we record this. You do have Sanders going in the first round, but do you see him in that kind of high end backup or top 20 end of the top 20 starter type guy? Is that his ceiling to you?
No, I think the ceiling is. Oh, you mean who he becomes or where he's drafted?
Yeah, like what do you think? Like, what is the best version? Who is the best case comp for him?
Yeah, above average starter. I think Geno Smith is a pretty good comp. I think the very best comp could be maybe a Jared Goff or C.J. Stroud type of game manager with good accuracy, but he's got to learn to play on time. He likes to play too much hero ball, and I don't know. Like, I do wonder sometimes if he gets caught up in the primetime persona, being his son, his dad's son, and thinking that he needs to set the world on fire and make these spectacular plays instead of just, staying on time. They call it missionary football, right? Missionary style quarterbacking is what the kids are calling it today. And so maybe just ta-da, not it's simple, it's easy, it's not hard. We're just going to do the easy thing. But that's what Tom Brady did. And no one's complaining about Tom Brady. All he did was win, And Jared Goff has resurrected himself as a really capable quarterback, a guy who had MVP buzz last year. So I think Shedeur Sanders has above average starter, and that's a good thing. Average starter's like, 15th or 16th starter in the league. I think he's got a chance to be maybe a little bit better than that if that's his ceiling now.
Okay. What do we call it? Last time you were on the show, this was called a washroom draft? What do we call that? What did you label it? It was a
washroom.
It's like a boots room. What was it?
Mudroom?
Mudroom draft. That's what it was.
Was it? Is that what I said?
I think so.
I don't remember anything anymore. I'm sure I did.
All right, let's take a break from the mock draft to talk about Underdog. Yes, it's NFL draft week, but also the NBA and NHL playoffs are here. My Knicks, let's go. And the best part is you can win even if your team doesn't. It's easy, like the Mavericks, for instance. They're not even in the playoffs anymore. Tough sitch.
That's rough.
Yeah, it's easy. Just pick higher or lower on 2 or more players, any sport, any game, and you could win big. Get started right now by scanning the QR code on your screen or sign up with the code HTC. New users can receive up to $1,000 in bonus credits when they deposit for our U.S. audience only.
All right, spring is officially here, which means I'm going out more and staying out longer. Whether it's if you're.
Oh, we know that.
Well,
we know you're going out.
It can
and staying
happen,
out
but
longer.
sometimes you're doing wholesome things like yard work. Not that I'm doing a ton of yard work, but I know, Dan, that you've got some projects around the house, and we need help.
I'm doing
with that.
an enormous amount of yard work right now, Mark. Enormous.
I always feel
breaking my back.
I feel like I'm always hearing about like little projects and stuff, and so you would need protection, and that's why I'm happy to have found Mando whole body deodorant, because unlike some other deodorants, won't say who they are, that I've tried, it lasts as long as I do. And what do I love about it? Like, they were cool enough to send us, I wouldn't call it a gift pack because it's more than just a gift. It was functional. It looks really good. It's packaged well. It's easy if you're a guy and you got a bunch of stuff like all over the place. Like, it's easy to store, and it's a great product, and it smells good, and it keeps you smelling relatively good. So Mando's starter pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice like mini body wash and deodorant wipes, and free shipping. As a special offer for listeners, new customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code that equates to over 40% off your starter pack. Use code HTC at shopmando.com. That's shopmando.com. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence from head to toe with Mando.
Mark, why don't you give us 11 through 15 right now?
Okay, I've got the 49ers, Shavarius Ward out the door. They take Jahdae Barron out of Texas, the cornerback. They lost a lot of guys on defense. I could see them taking at least that position. Cowboys, Matthew Golden, wide receiver out of Texas at number 12. We've got the Dolphins, who will be parting ways with Jalen Ramsey, probably, taking Will Johnson, the cornerback out of Michigan.
Wow.
Okay.
Lance
Okay.
whistle. Keep
Then
going.
we've got I really this is one match and pick and player that is obviously intriguing, and I'm like can't wait to see where he goes. But Tyler Warren, the tight end out of Penn State, to the Colts at 14, and then the Falcons, Josh Simmons, the offensive tackle, Ohio State.
All right,
That's
Lance.
15.
What was that whistle about? Let's talk about it.
Okay, so did you consider at all that Will Johnson never ran a 40 this entire draft process? He didn't run at he didn't play the second half of the year with turf toe. Then he didn't run at the combine. He said, I'm just waiting until my pro day. Then pro day, it's tweaked my hamstring a little bit. I'll run at my own personal pro day. Then he got to personal pro day and said, hey, I'm just going to do field workouts. And he never ran. Like, I don't know if a guy who is considered a slow cornerback who played a lot of zone is going to go that early. Now, earlier I would have said yes. Earlier in the process, absolutely. Right now, there's a lot of questions about is he a 4'6" corner. So I think he'll slide. But I want to give him credit. So Josh Simmons, a lot of us have him back at the Kansas City Chiefs at 31 because there's some, maturity concerns. More importantly, there's patella concern, that the injury he had. And I think some teams worry about coming back from that. But I like that Sess took a little swing here because he's a really talented tackle and is probably going to go earlier than people think he's going to go. And he's probably going to go closer to what his talent base is. So now who's at left tackle? Why I hadn't even considered left tackle over there for the Falcons. I'm going to do some research here on the fly just in case I need to take back everything I just said.
I want to deflate my results even further in this one little swing here because our wonderful producer Justin helped me crowdsource the Josh Simmons one. He's jumped in and said, like, the injury is not as big of a deal as people think, and so stock up. But I don't know if offensive line is their number one need. That is
so
fair.
Are we getting rid of Jake Matthews? Just out of curiosity.
I will ask the
there,
team.
Mark,
I'll ask the team what's happening with the.
Well,
with that
I'm checking his
situation, but no.
contract status. When I do mock drafts, it takes 7 hours. I'm checking contract status. Let's see. What do we have here?
You've done all this already, right, Mark?
Oh,
Yeah, but
no.
I feel the doorway opening for some critique in general.
So, what's the dead cap space? 10.
You checked the dead cap, right?
Yeah. Ooh. Well, he's definitely not starting the left tackle. I mean, nope, you're not playing him in front of Bergeron. Wait a minute. Who are you? Like, where are you playing him exactly? I guess you know what? It's fine. It's a red shirt year. You're not gonna play. I don't love Caleb McGarry on the right side, so that's fine. I'll let it stand.
Okay. Oh, phew.
Forward
Close call.
thinking is how I would view it.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. What do you think, Conor? You feel
Well, you're not
okay about
going to
this?
cap like it's still a $10 million cap hit for Jake Matthews even after 26. So we're still 2 years away from left tackle unless you're going to swing Jake Matthews to right tackle. So
I see some issues with the selection.
No,
yeah,
don't back down,
I
Mark.
mean,
Don't back
and
down.
why did right now? I'm guessing
Stand your
I'm
ground.
guessing your producer said, why did he mention me on the crowdsourcing?
I was trying to get
Exactly. I
him
thought
credit.
that was
Then it went-
interesting that Gravy got pulled into the Sessler pick there.
Well, when I did
Justin,
mention
you okay
him,
with
it
that?
looked good, but
Yeah, it's
Mark was asking me for a left tackle, or not a left tackle, but a tackle option, and I was like, "Well, Josh Simmons
so it
still
is
out
Mark.
Mark, don't.
Yeah, no,
God damn it.
You're right about
but
that.
Yeah.
if you cycle back a few minutes, it sounded like I was going to be praised for that. So I wasn't doing the thing where like I
No,
don't
hang
mention
on.
Justin.
Okay,
Can't
so
wait.
here it is. We're official. This is his last year, Caleb McGarry's last year on his contract. I'll let it stand.
Maybe we could dump McGarry. For
Yeah,
we can
that's
move
what I'm
him,
saying. He could be a cap casualty, and then he's 30 years old. We're off to the races with a new right tackle in Simmons. And
All right, good. That actually checks out then.
back, yeah. So it checks out. It's fine, and that's one of those surprise picks that people aren't putting in mocks that happen every year. So I mean,
And that's what we need.
Johnson,
That's
terrible
what we're aiming
pick
for.
with Will Johnson, but not a bad one here with Simmons. A little surprised, but it makes
It's not going to be good enough to go 14 for 32. We need to hit some doubles and triples and a couple home runs to really get out there in the public discourse. So, Mark, with that said, this is where the money is really made. Anybody could pick the top 10, but here we are, 16 to 20.
All right, Cardinals at 16. Mikael Williams, edge out of Georgia. Nobody on that team had more than 5 sacks a year ago. Jonathan Gannon wants to get players on that defense. So there's a bunch of edge rushers, and so I'm projecting that kind of player or position there. Bengals, Gray Zabel, offensive line, North Dakota State. He can play, multiple positions, it looks like. And I think the Bengals, it's like you need a lot of defense, but you need that line. So let's do that. Colston Loveland, tight end, Michigan, goes to the Seahawks at 18. How far do you want me to go? To 20 here?
Conor looking a little surprised by that pick, let alone Lance not moving.
No, well, it's, here we are. But
we're gonna reprocess all this stuff here in a second. I mean,
yeah, keep going, Mark. I feel like we're getting into dangerous, choppy waters here.
Yeah.
Okay, Bucks go edge. Donovan Izirikusku, Easy E, I like to call him.
Woo.
And 20 Broncos. This one I feel good about. Omarion Hampton, running back, North Carolina, for Sean Payton and the Broncos.
Yes.
All right.
That's easier, and that one's way easier to pronounce too. Hampton.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. I'm a little nervous here as host of Heed the Call right now, just a little bit. Lance, go ahead.
So, can you walk me through the? What was your rationale? It's fine. What was your rationale for the Arizona Cardinals again?
Well, edge rusher, they didn't get enough pressure on quarterbacks last year. You've got a defensive-minded coach that we at least need to see his defense do what
was your stats?
He said they would do.
You had stats that you mentioned.
They had no one with more than 5 sacks, and I like Dennis Gordek and those guys, but they were all like kind of contributing here and there. And so just build up your pass rush.
Yeah. I think all that you said is absolutely correct. I am going to read you Mikael Williams' sack stats over the last 3 years. 4.5, 4.5, 5. So we're looking for
those
more
are separate
sacks.
years.
Those are separate years. We're looking for more sacks than 5, so we go out and draft a guy who's high.
Well, this is what makes the story of sport wonderful, is that these guys sometimes
There you go. So if I know one thing, it's the Arizona Cardinals developing a player and turning him into something even better at the next level.
No, when you think of player development, you think Cardinal football. There's no question about that. Hey, look
Should
at
they
this.
just not make a pick?
Hey, look at this. Mike Green's on the board still. He had 17 sacks last year and 23 tackles for loss. Huh.
Yeah, I accept your point there. Like also there was a little fog of war here where it's like I want to match a lot of edge guys to different teams, and I'm sort of saying maybe the Cardinals do the incorrect thing. See, that's how you got to factor that in. We don't trust them, so they don't pick the guy that we say they should pick.
Look how easy he came off his position. I had a GM do that to me one time. Or you could just say, hey, the fact is he's got more projectable traits than Mike Green. Mike Green isn't as long-limbed as Mikael Williams, and Mikael Williams, we're not drafting for year 1. We're drafting for 3 years, 5 years, and Mikael Williams is a better physical fit and has a higher upside. That's what you could have argued also. But
well, you did it so well for me that I.
It's good to see you can be taken off your position so easily. You'd do great in a war room in the draft.
This
what
is
are
like
you talking about Sessler, and they're just pushing you off your pick? You got to stand.
We
your
just did a
ground.
draft day. We just did the draft day Costner movie rewatch for our show, and you are profiling a little bit like the Jacksonville Jaguars GM in that film, Mark, where you just get broken in half.
I disagree with that, Dan.
Yeah.
I've never seen draft day. Never watched it.
It's full of heart, start to
'Cause I
finish.
live
All right, here we go. Anything else from those picks that jumped out to you?
Read them again. We had Mikael Williams. I got kind of stuck there.
Yeah, then we've got Gray Zabel to the Bengals.
That's fine.
Connor didn't like this apparently, but Colston Loveland to Michigan.
Yeah, you got an issue
tight
there,
end.
Connor. I know you have your own mock industrial complex over at SI.
I think I'm just more largely disappointed at the fact that about 10 minutes ago, we had this lane for Mark to really, for the rubber to meet the road and for him to become like a true tape dog and run with it. And he was being interesting and he was being against the grain. And I've just watched him become picked apart now over the last 5 minutes. And I'm beginning to lose confidence at a massive rate. So,
yeah.
Wonderful.
Hey, Lance, can you just, Lance, we're just going to take you out of the room for 1 minute. We're just going to have a quick pep talk with Mark. All right, Lance, just stand by a second. Okay. All right. Mark.
Yeah.
We have to pull together now. We can't let Lance take
I
you
thought we
apart
got
like
off
this.
to a very strong start, but
We
he's
did.
finding his footing a little bit with some of these mid-round picks.
It's almost as if every time you relent a little bit or tell him he made a good point, he gets stronger. And I feel like this is going in the wrong direction.
Well, I'm not surprised that it is, but I'm going to take that to heart. And we'll just kick it off here with the next pick.
Yeah, let's bring Lance back in. You got this,
Okay.
buddy. Stay strong.
Okay.
All right, Lance, welcome back. Sorry about that. Just a little
Oh, no problem, guys.
little team huddle there. All right, let's go to 21 to 26.
21 is the Steelers, and I kind of think that if Sanders, this is not a revolutionary concept, but if he fell here, it feels like a fit to me. But I have them. They need a quarterback, and I'm putting Jackson Dart here. We'll see what happens if that's the kind of player they'd pick. But I needed to get a quarterback in here to spice things up a little bit. The Chargers, Emeka Egbuka, the wide receiver at Ohio State. That's a position they need to add to. I trust Ohio State on that front. Packers, this draft's in Green Bay. This is where I'm putting Mike Green, the edge out of Marshall. I think that fan base would go wild if that happened. That would be a positive. Malaki Starks, the safety out of Georgia, to the Vikings. Donovan Jackson, the interior offensive lineman out of Ohio State, to the Texans at 25.
Is this a new strategy to avalanche me with picks so I can't think about them and comment on them? Like it's an avalanche of picks. And he said Malaki. That's not even his first name. It's Malachi.
Malachi? Yeah.
Malachi
Yes,
Starks.
and now there's so many names coming in. I can't even it's like I can't.
Well, we can add them
think about-
graphically on screen here, but
One of them seemed crazy. Let me think. Okay,
All right,
so
here we go. I'll
what-
give you Dart to the Steelers, Egbuka
First
to
of all,
the
Dart.
Chargers.
If it's not Sanders, I don't think it's going to be Dart. That'll be Matthew Golden. What else?
Emeka Egbuka to the Ohio State, to the Chargers with the wide receiver.
I actually like that better than what they'll probably do, which is Kenneth Grant, Michigan man. I would much rather see Egbuka there. I kind of think
Nice.
I like what you're doing with your mock there better rather than what I think Jim Harbaugh is going to do.
Okay.
Okay. Little backhanded compliment. Green to the Packers, Malachi Starks to the Vikings, Donovan Jackson to the
Malachi's
Texans.
in need. Donovan Jackson, yeah. No. That's a good pick, but it's Tyler Booker.
Tyler
Okay.
Booker to the Texans. And Lance knows the Texans.
Alabama
like
to
nobody's
Alabama.
business.
You got D'Amico Ryan's Alabama, an Alabama player. He's a butt kicker. He's a tough guy. But Donovan Jackson is a player I actually have graded a little higher than Tyler Booker. So I'm giving Sessler, once again, I think I like Sessler over the league on this one.
Ooh, very nice. And while we're here, real quick, Lance, what is your overall take on the direction of the Texans offseason? You know, with obviously the Tunsil trade surprised a lot of people for a team whose season seemed almost ruined by the offensive line's inability to let Stroud take the next step as a passer. Where do you feel about the Texans right now?
Texans, I think, are in an interesting spot. I think they're still moving forward. They're ascending, but they had to take a step back before they could take 2 steps forward. And I think the reason they got rid of – first of all, they needed to get rid of Laramie Tunsil. They needed to move him to create space so that they could actually maneuver in free agency. They needed money. They didn't have money there. It also – they weren't going to give him a contract next year. So they were able to bring in draft capital. And then he wasn't really – he wore the C on his jersey, but according to some people I talked to in the building, he was not like a big-time leader at all, which is why I think they're going to look for a guy like Tyler Booker, who's considered the leader of Alabama. More than any other player, he's considered the guy who basically ran that whole locker room. So that's why I think they'll go Booker, is they're looking for a certain type of culture builder. And it's not going to be pretty at left tackle this year. It may be rough on the whole offensive line. It's not something that they can – I'm not sure it's going to be rebuilt in one single year. But, you changed offensive line coach, which you needed to do. You swapped out offensive coordinator, which kind of surprised me after, just 2 years. And one of those years, your rookie was Offensive Player of the Year. And then the next year, I thought Ryans and Stroud and Bobby Slowick all had a little bit of, inconsistent years, but only one guy got paid the iron price on that one. And that was Bobby Slowick. So I think right now, I can't say it's a positive offseason. I can't say it's negative. I think they're in a little bit of a purgatory this year, and it will take until next year where we really see, where they have more money in free agency, more draft picks. I think next year they might be able to fix the offensive line, but I don't think they fix it. But I do think they add a first-round offensive lineman. I think that's more than likely, especially in the scenario that Sessler laid out. But I would flip them. I would go Booker first before Jackson. But in my world, I would take Jackson over Booker.
All right. Good. I feel like we're gaining some momentum again here, Mark. Let's close out the first round right now.
Okay, Rams, Shamar Stewart, edge out of Texas A&M. I know they got Verse a year ago, but I just like them continuing to build that defense. Ravens go wide receiver, Tet McMillan, the wide receiver out of Arizona. All right. Tyleik Williams, defensive line, Ohio State to the Lions. Jahad Campbell, linebacker, Alabama.
Who did you just put? Who was that pick?
Williams to the Lions. Tyleik.
Yeah. Oh, you put him in the first round. Okay.
Okay. Well, I did.
Yes, he did. Yes,
no,
he did.
they need a defensive. You said the Lions, right? The Lions need a defensive tackle. That's fine.
Yep. Campbell, the linebacker out of Alabama, to the Commanders. Maxwell Hairston to the Bills at 30, the cornerback out of Kentucky. Kenneth Grant to the Chiefs, defensive lineman, Michigan. And James Pierce, the edge out of Tennessee, to the Eagles at 32.
God,
All right, Lance, what do you think?
I wish I could hate this. It's just, I don't hate it. Let's go through. Take me through your pick by pick before you avalanche me. Pick by pick.
I'll help you out with this one. All right, so let's start with Tet McMillan, wide receiver going to Baltimore.
So that's a curious one. They're a team that needs edge. They need safety. Now, they've got Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman. They got, Mark Andrews, Tyler Moore. I don't think they're going wide receiver in the first. But if Mark told me it was best play, he said, I just think their grade is going to be too high on him. I don't know that he's a Raven type of personality, to be honest with you. So I'm gonna pass on him. I don't think
I've seen him as high as going to the Cowboys at 12.
Yeah,
he's been all over the place.
He's a tough one because his tape this year is just kind of average. He ran a 4.5 40, and then he famously had a quote saying he doesn't really watch football or something like that. That kind of made some people, feel some kind of way about him. I think they're more likely to go with an edge rusher or Nicky Manwari, the safety out of South Carolina. They could go safety. They could go edge rusher. I just, wide receiver, I'm just looking. I mean, I get it. You're loading it up for your quarterback. But, yeah, I mean, it's not terrible. And he's – in terms of what you need, he is a position that you need. So – yeah, it's not. I still think they need another safety, but you got Starks off the board, so I guess Eamon Worry could go here. Yeah, it's all right. What's the next one?
He has Tyleik Williams, the lineman.
Yeah, so Lions need a defensive tackle. Why did you go with him over, say, Walter Nolan or Kenneth Grant?
I like the background. I like the fit. Feels Lionsy to me.
Feels Lionsy. Okay. I'm going to put that. Now, I hope you don't mind. Now, you said you gave me permission to take from this mock draft and use as I see fit on my final mock. And I am going to now. I may have a different player in mind, to be honest, with the 27th pick with the Lions, but I may steal from you and say feels Lionsy.
You can, we're a part of the same industry, so similar lexicon. You can use anything you'd like.
I like that. Jihad Campbell to the Commanders,
Well,
Maxwell Harrison to the Bills.
he actually does feel commander is the a little bit. If that is the descriptive adjective, what is that? I'll have to check on that one. But Max Harrison, Harrison could go way earlier, to be honest with you. He's another tough one. Depends on how you like him durability-wise. He could end up being the first corner off the board. That's why this draft's weird. The same guy who goes in the 20s, in the 12s, 13 range could end up going in the late 20s. So you didn't have Matthew Golden in your first round.
No, he went to the Cowboys, I believe.
No.
Check here.
No. Did he? Oh, he did. He did. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, this draft isn't total shit after all. It's not bad.
All right, there you go. So I feel like,
now James Pierce, but James Pierce is a good fit there. Who do you have for the Chiefs?
Kenneth Grant, Michigan.
We're gonna put him next to Chris Jones.
Chiefsy.
He is. When I think about it, he does feel Chiefsy. This is not the worst mock draft Sess has ever done. Easily last year was. I think this one, you had a little comeback this year, Mark. This is not.
No trades either, I
not
see.
too bad.
I did that intentionally because in the past I've tried to put like 14 insane trades in there, and I don't know if I've ever gotten a trade correct. So this draft to me is a little different. It felt a little bit more like we talked about, like line up a guy at each spot, and it's my non-psychotic plan for what will happen on the night. Very few trades.
Yeah,
we'll see.
You played that. You played this one down the middle. You didn't try to, you laid up. You didn't try to get to the green in two. So on the par 5, there's water there, by the way. So I think you played it safe. It's just that kind of draft where it's going to be. I don't really know what's going to happen. There's going to be a lot. I don't think there's crazy stuff in the first 10, but after that, it becomes a real crapshoot. Here's some trick shots I'll throw at you. Colston Loveland ahead of Tyler Warren, because some teams have Colston Loveland graded a little bit higher. 3 running backs in the first round with Travion Henderson getting into the late part of the first round. Walter Nolan is the guy that you didn't put in your mock, who is the best defensive tackle in the draft. But there is some. I know I have a hard time putting him in mine, because what I'm hearing is the immaturity and high maintenance and stuff like that, and so he may fall. But he is the best defensive tackle in this draft. But I think he could fall. James Pierce is way better than 32nd, but that's about where if he makes it in the first. I'm not sure I'm going to put him in the first round in my final mock, just because there's those same concerns. No, but you did put Jackson Dart in, so you had the 3rd quarterback in there. Tyler Shuck could be a factor in the first round, and there is a scenario where if the Steelers don't take, if Shedeur Sanders falls to the Steelers and they don't take him, they take a Matthew Golden, for example, or another player. There's a scenario where Dion is tweeting some not very nice things at the NFL.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because it could be a precipitous fall. It could be maybe the Kenny Pickett draft of 22, where Pickett was the only first rounder that went, and everyone else fell to the 3rd. It was Desmond Ridder fell to the 3rd, Matt Corral fell to the 3rd, Malik Willis fell to the 3rd. And if you're not in
and
the
with
first,
good reason, as it turned out.
Yeah, with good reason. The league stuck with their tape grades, and there's a lot of coaches, there's a lot of teams that do not have Shedeur Sanders as a first-round grade. So that's what makes this – and same thing with Jackson Dart. I have Shedeur ahead of Jackson Dart for the record, but I think this is an interesting draft because it's not loaded at the top end, and then people's grades on picks 12 through 30 are going to be very similar. They're going to be very similar, so there's no telling what flavor ice cream they like at all those different picks. But pretty good job.
Sounds Nice. I like that. It sounds like this was a tough assignment. In some ways, an easier assignment, but also a tougher assignment. And Mark,
I came after Mark because I wanted to test you. Like, you have to. Last year was terrible, abjectly horrible, and I had to leave prematurely because I couldn't. Like, I had work to do, and
you hung up on us.
It seemed like
famously.
you were just goofing around. It was so bad. But this one, it seemed like you tried, and it seemed like you put some thought into it for them. Except, he feels Lions. I don't know if that feels like you did a lot of work on that one, but I think these were actually pretty decent. I'll do this again next year.
It's just another year of development and maturity in terms of the assignments. So I appreciate every little
How many
step
years
that I
have you
make.
done this?
This is the 12th annual.
Oh,
yeah.
my
I mean,
God. It's taken 12 years.
It's taken on different forms. Let's put it that way. But
Everybody develops at a different pace,
I've been working for the NFL this is my
Yeah.
11th draft. You've been doing mock drafts longer than I've been doing mock drafts for NFL, and you had that one from last year?
well, there's some truth to the historical side of all this.
Mark's a large chunk of clay, and we're molding him into something special. It's just
He's
it's
becoming
process.
kind of a tape dog, as was previously quoted in the show. I mean, I don't know how much tape he actually watched, but I do like the fact that he copied and pasted a lot of the mocks out there, and he came out with his own version, which is pretty good. Hey, I'm not trying to remake. If I get a good recipe, Mark, I'm not changing the ingredients. I'm sticking with the ingredients.
It's exactly the same.
Yes, Justin.
I just wanted to say that time is relative, and like you said, we all move at our own pace. This may be the 12th annual Mock Sessler Marc Draft. At the top of the show, it was introduced as the 14th annual, and last year's was the 6th annual. So time is relative, and no one really knows.
There you go. Thank you for explaining the joke, Gravedigger. Appreciate it. Lance, I saw you had Black Mirror teed up in your hotel room.
I do. I've got my Smith's "The Queen is Dead" shirt on.
There you go.
I figured I could wear that and watch. Well, it was the Black Mirror.
Yeah.
But I figure I'll watch the final episode of that one, although I haven't heard great things about the last episode, so we'll see.
All right. Well, thank you for giving us the time,
Thank
buddy.
you.
And thank you for your honest appraisal of Mark's and continued efforts to climb the ladder in your chosen field of expertise.
Yeah. Well, I'll have a new podcast coming out soon, and we'll just I'll try to step on your turf a little bit and see if I can't step on your toes a little bit next time.
I love
Fair.
it. And Mark, I'm sure would be welcome to come on your show and reverse the roles here. If that's
For
what
a
you're
very-
interested in, Mark's available.
A very beefy long
wait, we lost
and he's left.
We lost him. I guess that was a step too far. That was a bridge too far to insinuate that you would be on even footing in that way, Mark.
No
But I
further
thought,
commitment, I think, is what he was going for there.
I thought Lance challenged you in ways that I didn't expect, and it kind of put you on an island a couple times. And I know you were uncomfortable because I was uncomfortable at times. But at the same time, I think that's all part of the growth of what we're trying to accomplish here.
It is. I will think about some of the comments that came my way because I kind of knew that would happen at some point, and yes, that will be ingrained in my mind. Conor, I feel like you were shaking your head a couple times.
I felt for you a little bit, and Conor, like there was, the setups where Lance was asking for Mark to dive into the process a little bit more. That felt like we were getting into some murky waters, and I'm just glad it's over. Put it that way.
Yeah, so just a couple things. I think what you need to do for next year is you need to rehearse a couple of football guy comebacks. And I texted you one because he had mentioned Nicky Manwari out of South Carolina. And I think, the obvious response there is, well, I didn't have a first round grade on him. Because that infers that you have graded all of these people in some way, shape, or form. And another good one that I really like is he feels like a terrible scheme fit to me because what you've done is you've sort of attacked first and then you've put the onus on him to re-explain the scheme and then how the player folds into it.
Well, I love that.
And then once he does that, you can in some manner regurgitate what he said, and then all of a sudden it feels like there's an organic conversation happening.
Yes.
Like these are just little things that we could work on. Canned lines, football guy takes ready, as we continue to ramp up you as a prospect in your own right.
It's as if these strategies are more important than the actual mock draft itself, and so I will write these down.
Yes, Conor, last word goes to you.
Let's just nail the pronunciations next year, like
That's the other thing.
Ezraku from Boston College.
Thank you.
Like we have to.
We got to get Malachi next time. Like
Some of that is yes, and I typically what I'll do is if there's a tricky name and then you're going to read a bunch, like I will phonetically write it out and highlight it and make sure a couple times.
We missed that step this year.
No, because some of them that's exactly what I did. That one slipped through the cracks, and the minute it came out of my mouth, I thought,
I think it happens to me sometimes. If you could just kind of skip to the last name, or if there's another way around it, a workaround in the future.
Come up with your own football guy nickname for him. Call him Diaz, or like Ez, something.
I've learned so much.
Yeah.
Just say his initials,
Ooh.
All right, everybody. We hope you enjoyed the latest Mock Sessler Marc Draft. Next time you hear from us, it will be Draft Night live stream, followed by a recap episode after that. So, until then, do what you must. Heed the call.